Hello, everyone. Welcome back to AIQuantEasy from zero to hero. In the previous episodes, we trained supervised learning models to make a prediction on good days to enter into positions, right? We find out that the performance of those supervised learning models were not good. So the reason for that is stock data, as I mentioned multiple times, are really challenging. There are so many factors influence the stock prices. Something like macroeconomy, financial news, company fundamentals. That there are so many different type of investors using different type of investment strategies on the stock market. All these forces come together, drive the price movement. So in other words, stock data are far from stationary. A supervised learning model typically works for more stationary type of data, right? If you want to train a supervised learning model to predict the graduation rate, to predict sales profit, to predict the house values, for those type of data, typically supervised learning model works pretty well, right? But for stock data, I showed you from the previous examples, it is very hard to get satisfactory performance. But the good news is that today I will present you a version of supervised learning for stock prediction that works reasonably well. So here's the version that I want to present you. And let's just go through this version and see what changes I have made to make this works much better. So the first part is loading the stock data, right? So here I use those ETFs that are less volatile than SPY. Less volatile may imply that the factors that influence the stock price actually are much simpler than the ones that are more volatile. So the first one I want to try is called IWD. IWD is an ETF that tracks Russell 1000 value index. So there are some other examples that you can try. So all these ETFs, most of them are value-based and less volatile than SPY, and also less volatile than most of the stocks, individual stocks. So I will get 10 years worth of IWD from Yahoo Finance, and we will build our supervised learning model on this ETF, okay? Then let's just run this loading data. Then we just derive those indicators that I illustrated in previous episodes. So here is data labeling. For data labeling, this time I just don't want to check every single day if it is a good day or not, right? I want to basically apply a filter first to remove those days that have less opportunity to become a good day. I use RSI, relative strength index, as a filter. If a day's RSI is less than or equal to 45, then I even don't look at it further. I just don't think it's a good day, right? So typically a good day may have a good RSI value. So I use RSI greater than 45 as a first filter to filter those days out which have no less opportunities to become a good day. So once I apply this filter, then I further look into the future to say, starting from this day, if I say 4% increase first before I say 1% down, okay, here the profit and the loss ratio are 4% versus 1%. Okay, so in other words, if a day has RSI value greater than 45, then we further look into the future days to say, starting from this day, this current day, if I say 4% increase first, before I say 1% down. If that's the case, I mark this day as 1. So in other words, this day is a good day by our definition. Otherwise, the label value for this day is just 0. Okay, so this is my current labeling strategy. Okay, again, the profit and the loss ratio is 4:1 now. Just one more thing. When we're labeling the day, we have to look into the future information, right? We cannot just label a day by using the current or previous information only. If we just use current or previous information only, then we don't need to train the supervised learning to make a prediction because we have the current and the previous information already. We can directly calculate if our labeling strategy is solely based on current or previous information, right? We can just look at those indicator values, look at its price value, volume values, and then we can calculate the labels, right? But our labeling strategy must look into the future information, right? So the future information should be part of our labeling strategy. In other words, in this way, we have the need to build a model to make a prediction, right? Otherwise, there's no need for any prediction. So that's why when we do the labeling, after we apply the filter based on the current information, then we look into the future days, right? To say if in the future, if I will see 4% increase first versus before I see 1% down, okay? So we need to have some future information in our labeling strategy. Okay, after the labeling strategy, we do the visualization on the label data. So let's just run this. Run the labeling first. Then we'll visualize the label data. Okay, so this blue parts represent those days that are labeled as 1. That means those are the good days based on our definition. And those red parts are the days have the label value 0. Those are not good days. Okay, then we come to supervised learning part. So this part has no change, just the same as what we did before. We create random forest classifier instance, and then we use 80% of the earlier data as a training, then 20% as a testing, and we train the model on the training data, and then use it to make a prediction for each day in the testing period, right? So let's just run this one. Then we got 90.75% accuracy rate. Again, by looking at this accuracy rate, we cannot get much insight about the performance of the model, right? So we have to calculate the confusion matrix. Okay, let's go ahead to calculate the confusion matrix. So here's a confusion matrix. Let's look at the second column first. So the second columns are the number of days that should have the label as 1. So basically, we totally have 38 days that are identified as good days by our labeling strategy. So among those 38 days, the model is able to predict 17 out of it as good days. So the recall level actually has been improved compared with the previous version. Let's look at the second row. The second row represents the number of days that the model predicted as good days. So there are totally 37 days that the model predicted as good days, right? And among these 37, 20 of them are false positive. So that means that these 20 days are not good days by our labeling strategy, but the model predicted as good days, right? Then 17 are true positive. So they are good days by our labeling strategy, and the model is able to predict them as good days as well. Okay, so we can see that as the precision of the prediction is improved as well compared with the previous version that we discussed in the previous episode, right? If we follow this model and do some trading in the testing period, so the model will predict 37 as a good days, right? So when the model predicted a day as a good day, assume we follow the model during the testing period, right? We will enter into the position at the close of the market. Once we enter into the position, let's just set the stop loss at 1% of the close price of that day. And we also set the stop win at 4% above the close price of that day. Okay, we set both. Then we will see in the future, the stock price will reach 4% first or 1% first. Okay, if the stock price reach 1% down first, then it will stop out. Basically, it will automatically exit the position, right? Then incur 1% loss. If the price reach 4% increase first, again, we will automatically exit the position. Then we have 4% profit, right? So if we follow this model during the testing period, then there are 20 days. Theoretically, there are 20 days. We will enter into the position, and later on, we will stop out and 1% loss. So there are 17 days. We will enter into the position, and we will automatically exit the position by reaching 4% increase, okay, of our profit. So we can calculate this profit factor by using 4 times 17 divided by 1 times 20. Just simply assume that every time when we enter positions, we just invest a fixed amount of money, let's say $10,000, right? Every time we just invest $10,000. If that's the case, then we can theoretically calculate the profit factor. So profit factor will be calculated by 4 times 17 divided by 1 times 20. Why 4 times 17? Because for this 17 days, right, we will exit the position with 4% profit. Then we divide it by 20, because for this 20 days, we will have 1% loss, okay? So that's 1 multiplied by this 20. So the profit factor will be 4 times 17 divided by 1 times 20. So that's way more than 1. So this profit model based on the testing data set, okay? So that's why I call it, this version works reasonably well. Actually, you can try others less volatile ETFs, again, to say if you have a reasonably good model or not, right? Okay, so finally, let's just visualize our predicted label. So these blue up arrows represent those days that the model predicted as good days to enter positions, right? So by looking at this visualization, so they are pretty reasonable, right? So they just identify those days either at the bottom or and it's in the early stage of the uptrend. So this model works reasonably well for less volatile ETFs. Those are value-based ETFs. Okay, thank you for watching.